joining us today. I'm Bas Tadros.
I'm Samuel Osborne.
And together we're presenting on how to basically lead with a heart-centered approach. So our program is called Heart-Centered Flow in Leadership.
Yep. I would have to say that the aim for today is to figure out what this idea of heart-centered thinking or heart-centered flow is all about. We have this new science coming out that talks about consciousness and and neuroscience, neuroplasticity, and how we can actually take that and apply it into everyday life, whether it's for your personal life or in professional organizations.
Great. It's excellent. I mean, some of the talks that I've given, I've started with explaining to people the importance of, one, being heart-centered, but also the importance of understanding what it is to have the right mindset to create the right leadership, to create the right outcomes for your business, for your life. So obviously we're going to be talking about leadership, we're going to be talking about heart-centered approach, we're going to be talking about the right mindset which creates that environment for being a good leader and being a heart-centered leader.
Yeah.
So thank you for joining us. First of all, basically we're going to start talking about the 7 areas that we're going to use throughout this program. The 7 areas are presuppositions, how they can help you with your day-to-day life, the unconscious mind, how that can help you by understanding yourself and understanding your unconscious mind, you can impact your life and the lives of others. Reframing, we're going to be talking about communication, of course the importance and the power of effective communication, and we're going to be talking about rapport building, so how to build rapport with people where you can actually make them feel so comfortable and so able to trust and to communicate with ease and to communicate in their own style. And then with the previous step, with the good communication models, then you talk back in their language so that you can actually relate to them and explain things and express things to them in their language and in their style, which effectively gets you that rapport. Cause and effect, we're going to be talking about the importance of living in the cause rather than effect. If this is a new topic to you, then this is a topic that will be of most interest.
It's a lot of fun, that one.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right? So most of the people on this planet that are dynamic, that have left a transformational impact, live in the cause. The people that live on the other side of the scale, in the effect, are people that are impacted and affected by everything. The weather's not good, I'm not going to go out today. This affects me, the family affects me, not having money in the bank affects me, and they're the people that are in the effect. So you want to be in the cause and have a cause in your life and know what's your cause to get you to where you want to be. The next thing we're going to talk about, and this is number 7, is future pacing. So future pacing takes you from where you are today, having an ideal view of where you're going to be tomorrow, visualizing that, and the more you visualize it, the more you're able to actually see what that's going to look like, and the more your mind can achieve it. So we're going to be talking a lot about that stuff, and we're going to get in depth.
Yeah.
The idea of this program and us actually having it run today is as a prelude of what we can do together. And then we're going to be demonstrating quite a few further areas of expansion.
Yeah. So this is really just a taster. It's just like 7 things that you can take away today and go, right, I've got these 7 ideas, and they're the introduction to the massive practical applications that you can take into your workplace or into your personal life. And even just getting the beginning bits is going to get the ball rolling inside your head of how to apply them in your life. And of course, there's much more. It's impossible to teach everything about even just one of them. We're still learning things about them. They're such expansive topics, and this idea of heart-centered consciousness here, and I've noticed this, is that I can use my imagination, I can use my thoughts, my intention to make small shifts, I guess, in this new thinking consciousness in here. It's not necessarily a neocortex thing. However, I will share with this idea of that we can talk about today is Dr. Rudolf Steiner and his ideas of creating heart thinking and through logical thinking questions. And the exercise that we can run today or talk about today is this idea of thinking, what is the permanent about a person or a company? What is the thing that is eternal? What's the thing that will outlast the physical appearance of it? So that you can start to sense a new kind of value, and you can do this across the board and go, look at all these people in the room. What's the eternal in this collaboration of people? Then I can then say, all of you people, you can intuitively say this. You get better at it. Everyone in this room values this thing, and most people sit there going, yeah, that's right, how did you know that? And you say, well, I'm literally asking myself a question and trusting my imagination, trusting this thing called heart consciousness to inform me. So essentially, we have the task, you have this obligation and this great opportunity to develop a new type of thinking, and to make it very simple to practice. So one thing I want you to take away today is to go out there and look at your company, look at your people, and you can just stand there and be looking in a room, think to yourself going, what is the eternal in this? What is the permanent? And just let that truth or those ideas to come to you, however they come, and then start to ask feedback off people and say, do you think that this is what this company is all about? Or what are you all about? And see if you're right. So you have to test against this new thinking that you get, this new perception ability with real life, situations. Otherwise it's not worth your time. And I have found that it's uncanny how wow, I'm developing like a sixth sense. And Rudolf Steiner says, yeah, you are. And the more you ask for, just go, what's eternal about this chair? What's eternal about Thomas? What's eternal about this state library? What's going to be here once it's gone? The physical thing, it will seek you out. It's a strange thing, and I'm not too sure how to explain it past that, because this is where I'm at in my own personal growth, is trusting this new perception capability. And I think that is like imagination and intuition and logics all mixed together in a soup.
It's a good point, because I think people forgot the skill or the ability to unuse the cognitive part of the brain. There is evidence of brain cells in your heart, there is evidence of brain cells in your guts, but people always are brain-centered. They always live and act from the left side of the brain. Everything is analytic, because we are trained to do it from school on.
If we could give you, a few tips today to go and try out personally, and in your organization, just, run them past people, because I think we need to gently bring this to people. You can't just go, all right, everybody, we're going to do heart-centered consciousness marketing and business from now on. And they're like, what?
Yeah.
And I've heard this from people I've interviewed for my blog, people who've worked in corporate situations. They go, there are a lot of CEOs or MDs around the world, or this is Sydney and Melbourne, that I've talked to these people, and they say they would like to introduce heart-centered thinking practices to their workplace, but their reputation is at stake. Like, even the people underneath them, they're like, my boss now wants us to do meditation and mindfulness stuff in the workplace to get on with the day and change the vision, and they lose respect, and people may start to go, and there's no confidence.
If it's good for the KPIs, why not?
Yes.
Well,
Well, it's good for the people that are achieving the KPIs, which is great, and that's the promotion. Look, I think I'm going to tie this in with point one for us, which is presupposition. So let's take what Samuel was saying and what you were saying, Thomas, and put that together in a presupposition. Let's presuppose that we're moving the culture of a corporate place or a personal culture of some individuals forward. And in their presupposition, they're going to presuppose that they're working in alignment with the universe. They're working in alignment with their natural charge of energy, of what's, basically compelling for them to do what they need to do in their life.
It's positive assumption.
Spot on.
Using your words and your thoughts to positively assume that things are going well.
Exactly.
And that the solution is just there.
Exactly.
And using the language, you can actually start to make people focus on the solution
of what they want to happen in their life, versus what they don't want. So a lot of people, I think, already harness the energy of the opposite of what I'm talking about, what we're talking about, which is the presupposition that things in their life aren't going to plan, that things in their life might be difficult. So what happens is life actually reflects that, and it is difficult, and there is less flow. When they presuppose that life is moving forward, it's helping them, it's conspiring with them to achieve what they've set out to achieve, it's a more powerful position to be in. So Rule 101, or the first presupposition of NLP, which we will be integrating in what we're talking about and what we're doing with heart-centered flow of leadership, is the presupposition that you are at the right place at the right time with the right people. And
it's a focusing thing.
It is.
I'm going to assume that I have the ability to come up with the solution.
Yes.
And just by choosing to have that focus, that is a presupposition, and saying that, going, okay, I'm going to, like a character on a stage, an actor on a stage comes on, believes they are the character so well that the audience thinks that they're real, and some actors do it so well that they need a few weeks to debrief and go, I've got to stop imagining that I'm that alcoholic character that I was playing in that drama.
Yeah.
Because the brain has the ability to completely believe, and we all do it, you know. We can tell ourselves amazing things and go, yeah, I'm depressed, or I'm anxious, or I'm unorganized. And it's a self-talk idea. So
self-fulfilling prophecy.
Absolutely.
Presuppositions is a big word for self-talk.
Exactly.
It's also talk to other people, how you talk to them. So you might as well use language, words,
to
that
effectively create what you want.
Yeah.
Because the brain wants to make you happy.
Absolutely.
And if you want to have a difficult situation, you get it.
Well, exactly. Well, the brain is basically an obedient servant, and it will serve you in whatever it is, that command that you give it. So I'm going to use a presupposition that, Thomas, you're having a great time right now. You're enjoying this training. You're enjoying the information that's thrown at you. And in doing so, I'm going to ask you a question to say, so Thomas, now that you're enjoying this training and you're effectively relating and communicating with us and interacting, what learnings would you like to achieve as an outcome at the end of today?
Well, I think I already got a huge amount of feedback to my question,
Right.
which evidenced my experience, and which is spoken what I thought, but I wasn't sure whether this can be a good or a bad decision. But I think now I'm more confident to apply a kind of trust.
Yeah.
Because
Right.
everything we were talking about is a lack of trust.
Yeah.
Because we forgot
Yeah.
switching off our left
Right.
side of the brain.
So if I told you that you're going to walk out of this training today with more confidence and a huge amount of trust in where things are heading forward, would that make you feel pretty good?
Absolutely.
Excellent. So I'm going to now demonstrate the opposite of an effective presupposition.
on me.
Exactly, on Samuel, which most people apply in their life.
Yes. Do you want me to be a difficult customer?
Yes.
Like a difficult colleague?
Well, I was actually going to give you a difficult challenge.
Okay, sure.
So you're already in the zone. So the presupposition on this side is, Samuel, you're depressed and you're miserable and you're not happy because life is just so difficult. How does that make you feel? And I already saw the pain on your face.
Just the words make me think, it makes me think about depression and times when I have felt depressed, and it felt like my mind is like a Google search browser, and the words going in are going into this search bar in my head.
And creating all
And so
the
whatever you say to
reference
me,
points.
I'm constantly searching and bringing up evidence, let's say, or memories have got to go, yes, this is truth.
Yeah. So let's clear that. You're now presupposing that life is absolutely amazing and dynamic.
Blue
which it
skies.
is.
Blue skies.
And you're effectively communicating to people what's the thing that makes you really happy in your life.
Mostly singing
Perfect.
and dancing.
Good.
Yeah.
And you've got a good voice for it, and the moves. So this is the power of presupposition. And we wanted to start with this because I want you, as people here in the training and people that are actually viewing this to presuppose that you're in the right place at the right time in your life. And I want you to think how more effective and how much more productive you can be in your life by applying this, just by presupposing that I'm at the right place at the right time. And there's a lot more that you can put to this, and this is a lot more effective than just an affirmation, because this is you living and embodying that presupposition that I'm at the right place at the right time.
May I throw in
Sure.
something here? We've got in the booklet there for you, Tom. Like we've given you the intro to presupposition, and you've just started to go, okay, so here's how it can, there are the difficulties that come up with it.
Right.
And this is a difficulty that I've really seen in other people, but we haven't actually mentioned it here, but I'll mention it. And so you start applying this in your workplace, let's say, and people, you authentically, honestly say, we're going to use this assumption language to positively change our mind. Now, what I have seen is people go, you're trying to do something to me, you're trying to use Jedi mind tricks on me, or hypnotize me, or use NLP on me. It's like, yes I am. What's the problem? And what we're really dealing with there is people's self-worth, is they don't actually want to be happy. And so then you've gone, we've gotten rid of an onion layer of who you are, and you can do this to the whole workplace, and then go, okay, so now that we know through research that positive talk, presupposition language is good for the brain,
Absolutely.
why wouldn't everybody just jump at it and go, cool, let's all work together and let's see if we can make this work. So if you have blockages, you have to think, well, what's that about?
Well, and that goes back to the beginning again of this conversation, is people will have a resistance to change. They will do what is comfortable, even if what is comfortable is not exactly what is effective. So they will do what their brain and their comfort zone tells them is the thing for them. So as soon as you come in and you presuppose that they are accepting or willing to change, what happens is their resistance is sometimes activated, and they're like, hang on a minute, you're trying to change things for me, and I'm really comfortable.
You're trying to make...
You're trying to make my life better. whoa.
Not everybody wants that, I guess.
Exactly.
I think I have an idea why people feel uncomfortable. Because if you come to this person and you're shaking the tree a little bit,
Yeah.
this person thinks, well, this guy wants to apply NLP.
Right.
And you're pushing this person slightly out of his comfort zone. But
Right.
the comfort zone is called comfort zone because it's comfortable.
Yeah.
And people don't want to leave this
They
comfort
don't want to
zone.
step out of that comfort zone. So I presupposed when I started talking about NLP that most people have a positive connotation around NLP. Let me just do something else that's very NLP and reframe it. So NLP is Neuro-Linguistics Programming, for anybody that doesn't know what it stands for. And Neuro-Linguistics Programming is exactly as it's stated. It's helping your neurons form a new form of programming that may be in the potential category of language. So you re-language, you reprogram your neuro context of that language, of whatever it is. And it could be your body language, it could be your spoken language, it could be your internal language. So that's all it is. Now, how people use it differs, just like anything in life. You can use your TV for good, and you can use your TV for bad. You could be watching educational material on it, you could be watching cartoons. Not that either of them is good or bad. But the idea is, it's what we use and how we use our programming and our language. And NLP gives you different techniques to be able to help. And it's used by the best of coaches around the world that help sporting athletes, actors, directors of companies, president of countries, leaders in whatever field that they're in, to help them understand their mind and to help them better use it, better effectively use it. It's almost like getting the manual of your mind and learning how to change it. So that's that on NLP, because I'm neither, trying to promote NLP or demote it. It's just how you
This
use
is
it.
how you can use it.
It's like any resource. You go to the library, you could use the library for good, or you could use the library for other means. So I think that's enough on presupposition.
Yeah,
unless
just
you've
want
got
to check in
anything else.
with Thomas. But what did you get out of that little bit about presuppositions?
Yeah, it's a good one.
Perfect.
It's very helpful, and it remembers me to my NLP course 15 years ago.
Great. So you've studied NLP?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So Thomas, if I was to draw a scenario for you, you're walking into a meeting with some powerful people in different organizations that you want to do some consulting with or work with at some point, and you walk in there with the presupposition that at the end of that meeting, they're going to be getting up, standing over the table, shaking hands with you and saying thank you for the information you've provided. We value your insights and we really look forward to working with you. And you know, whatever it is that we could do to reward you for your time and for your assistance, just let us know. We'll sign the contract. How would you feel going into that meeting with that presupposition?
It would be a very positive feeling.
Yeah.
But to create this feeling, it needs a little bit of preparation.
Sure.
Because I think it's important to get a lot of information about the parties in the room.
Perfect.
What their intentions are, what their personalities are, and what their aims are.
Well, my work here is done. I'm just going to conclude right here, ladies and gentlemen, because by just having that presupposition that you're going to have a successful outcome, your mind goes into the next layer of how am I going to create that positive outcome, which is I need to be prepared, I need to research my clients, I need to find out exactly what I need to have to create the outcome that I want. And that's exactly what presupposition is about.
It's almost like if you just take one problem solving 101, acknowledge the problem, break it down, and that's 90% of the work, because you go, well, that's the problem there. Okay, well then how do we solve that bit there?
Right.
And then you start to apply the positive language, okay, of solution focused.
Yeah. And that's a presupposition that you started with a problem. What we're talking about is starting with the solution. So you're starting with the presupposition, and from the place of I'm already at where I want to be, which is the handshake and agreement to go forward. And then your mind goes, okay, well, how would I get to that? I need to be prepared. I need to do the research. I need to have this information so that I can make that outcome possible. And so that's the idea. And we're going to talk a lot more about this on the 7th topic, which is basically future pacing.
Yeah.
And so, again, you're presupposing and you're future pacing, right?
It's taking away that idea of that assumption makes an us out of you and me.
Yes.
It's like assumption actually makes things work
Absolutely.
really well.
It's bad assumptions that make an
exactly.
ass out of you. Exactly. So moving on to the next
point.
one.
Next point.
What do you know about your unconscious mind? And this is a really good place to start to even talk about mindset and mind. Anybody? I mean,
You want me to start?
Sure.
With a picture.
Please.
The iceberg is a good picture, you know, the tip up here and this massive thing there. And I think that's wrong.
Sure.
I think the picture is incorrect. You got to take away the water. There's no divide between the conscious mind and the unconscious mind. It is, let's imagine the unconscious mind is Windows 8. Never mind what you think of Windows or whatever. But you have the ability to interface with it at any point. There's part of it you see, and there's a lot of it behind you, behind the screen. But essentially, you just have to click on stuff, and it takes you in. So our mind is actually able to access all parts. You just have to learn more, let's say, information technology skills to know where to look, and it's there. It's not like we have to go and map it and go, oh, what's over here and what's over here? I don't know, that's scary, I don't want to go into that bit. But to just know that you can access it, it's right there, and you've got to go looking.
And just like this example, there is a language of the unconscious mind, just like there is a language behind Windows 8. So you've got the interactive side, which is your conscious mind, and then you've got the MS-DOS side, which you need to kind of almost be a programmer to get into. And so without going into that too much, I'm going to give you another example, and it's a very simple example that I use with my clients before we go into a hypnotherapy session. I've set up my office in such a way that the front of my office, as soon as you come in, is a place for you to sit down, talk, and have an intellectual conversation about where you want to be and what's happening, what's not happening in your life. At the back end of the office is where we go into hypnotherapy and we talk to your unconscious mind. So the front of your mind, right here, is your logic, and it's all the components of calculation, measurement, and mathematics, let's say, to measure something and to calculate and to talk about. Intellectual.
Mm-hmm.
The back end, which science, and this is where Samuel and I have both seen, and you've probably seen it as well, the iceberg. The tip of the iceberg used to always be known as the conscious, and underneath it is the unconscious, or science even labeled it as subconscious.
This is Freud's idea.
Right.
Is that there's the first guy that said really, there's this, well, it's actually older, like, if you go back,
Yeah. But it was some of his work that helped psychology.
Just articulated this concept.
Yeah. And so what science has done now is they've gone back and re-looked at it, and they realized with the technology that we have today and the understanding and the studies that are modern scientific studies on the mind, is that the back end of your mind is not actually your sub at all. It's your unconscious mind, and it's accountable for more than 97% of everything we do. So it holds and it basically houses our filters, our belief systems, our presuppositions, as we talked about before.
It automatically stores all information,
about
memories,
experiences.
And it also will block painful experiences until such times as you feel ready to bring them back
to
up
deal with them. Yeah.
and look at them, whether you need to release the anger, the sadness,
Absolutely.
and then move on. It's
a very
good
intelligent
coping strategy, so that, say, if you're a child,
Yeah.
you don't just become, have to go to a mental hospital.
Right. You can block it and deal with it when you're ready, or when the time is more suitable. So the unconscious mind is really powerful, and the unconscious mind is active 24/7. It's active even when you're sleeping,
Mm-hmm.
because it regulates your heartbeat, your vital organs, your breathing, your lungs. You don't have to think about breathing, right? You don't have to think about operating your heartbeat. It does it even when you're asleep. So speaking to your unconscious mind helps you basically plant or program the idea of whatever it is that you want to create for your success, for your happiness, for your health.
And talking to your unconscious mind is really just talking to yourself. And we all do that.
100%.
So it's just getting a little savvy about how you talk to yourself.
Exactly.
And your unconscious mind is you, and so it responds, just like that.
Exactly. So now people will ask, how is this relevant to being a leader? And how is this relevant to leadership? Well, if you can lead your own mind and lead your own life, then you can become a better leader in the workplace, a better leader for the country if you're in the government, a better leader in your own right. And so by understanding your own unconscious mind, you can even lead your thoughts and work with the thoughts that better serve you, and let go of the thoughts that no longer serve you.
And it links pretty much the presupposition idea.
Absolutely.
So
they're hand in glove.
Yeah, so the presupposition is, focus on
What you want
positive
to create.
language, and the reason that works is because the unconscious is running the show, and it listens to everything you say, goes, okay, sure. If you want me to go find evidence that backs up what you're saying,
Yes.
I'll do it.
Yeah.
So if you go, well, what's the solution to, this question you had before about, how we stretch personalities and gel visions with a company, and you're asking that to yourself, there's that trusting aspect that the unconscious will come up with the answer. You just have to type in the search into here, and then say search, and it'll say, well, it might take a couple of days, and then there's the
Come to
three,
you.
most ideas come at the 3 B's.
Sure.
At the bath, in the bathtub, at the basin when you're doing dishes or something,
Yeah.
and at the bar when you're drinking.
I think
That's
all,
the three
all of them
B's.
actually have something in common, which is liquid and flow.
Well, yeah.
Right?
When you're doing something that is not part of the task of the creative, imagine the creative process is like a circle. You go, right, here's what I want to start with. You work on it, and then there's this period here where you have to stop working on it and go do something else. Go fishing, go walk around there, go and talk to a friend, do something else.
Yeah.
And then allow those thinking time to absorb. The unconscious mind is working on it.
Yeah.
You might actually get the solution there, and then you can apply it and come to the solution.
Absolutely. So I guess if we looked at even the unconscious mind example that we draw on, or that point that we talked about, it's almost like we're telling you now that you've got different rooms in your house that you haven't experienced yet. And instead of just living in your logic and bouncing back and forward between your left and right hemispheres of your brain, that there's a different, a much bigger room, almost like a rumpus room.
Well, I think that the room or the house of our unconscious is a bit like a magic room.
Yes.
You can open one door, but it can lead to any room in the whole house. In fact, you can be in one room and just go, and now I want to be in the kitchen, and you don't need to go through the door really.
Yeah.
And this is for some people, what? That defies logic. But the unconscious mind is not limited to logic.
Absolutely.
You can literally go chip chip and teleport.
Absolutely. And a good example of that, have any of you been on a holiday? And when you've come back from that holiday and come back to normal lifestyle and routine, have you ever imagined and taken yourself back to the place where you were in that holiday? Well, where you were on holiday may have been interstate or overseas, or in a secluded private island for that matter. But you were able to go there in your mind, even though you're here. And that's exactly what you're talking about, being able to transport through different rooms of the house by going into this magic room.
And I mean, you can, the current science theory is that the brain does not know the difference between what's actually happening through the five senses and what is being imagined. So you can imagine the taste of your favorite food, and all of a sudden you start to have a watering mouth. Or if you hear the sound of a tropical rainforest in a music shop, or one of these new age shops, or the sound of waves rolling, it reminds you of the time you're at the beach or on holiday.
Almost transports you.
Calms the heart rate down, changes chemical release as your body thinks you're there.
Yeah, exactly.
So how can we use that unconscious storage of memories to our fullest effect? To get into, I guess, the state that we want, and then to share it with others, so that there can be a shared sort of experience of what it means to be in our hearts, and create all these new solutions for problems that have been stuck.
And isn't it amazing, by talking about reframing, it's opened up the communication, it's opened up the whole spectrum of all the things that we've talked about.
I think it really is about reframing, is tapping into what is possible, just through simple language, through thoughts. And I think we should be, in 2015, no matter what organisation or personal life is saying, I should be taking full advantage of this.
Of the reframing
because,
opportunity.
We kind of got all these long established problems and going, how do we fix them? Well, we might not have the solution yet, but we have these tools over here like presupposition, looking at the unconscious mind, and reframing as ways to get us up to a new level.
And once again, if I was to demonstrate this on Samuel, because he's such an amazing model for demonstration.
Thank you.
I want you to close your eyes for a second, and I want you to imagine a frame, a picture of you being at a place where the sun is setting. Cool. And as the sun is setting, it's basically looking like it's the end of a day. And that day is coming to an end, and it's coming to a complete close. There's a bit of a completion, there's a change of energy. And now I want you to change the frame and put a new frame of where the sun is rising. And it's a completely new day, it's bright. Even the flowers are aware of this, and they're blossoming and opening up. And it's just a bright day, it's beautiful, sunrise, and it feels like the energy and the change is a new energy and change for the day. How does that feel, Samuel?
Well, the setting, when the sun's going down, it's like this, that's the end of the day, and then the new day comes and it's like
a recharge,
and what am I going to do today? It's like straight away the state puts me into just imagining, because I have the visual is quite strong. Let's go, sun's going down, let's go have dinner, relax, sit down. Simply imagining the sun coming up, because I like to go to the beach in the morning.
Perfect. A different state of mind.
All of a sudden, what's my intention for today? What am I going to do? What do I want to achieve?
Perfect.
It's not relax, it's action stations.
And so that, ladies and gentlemen, is a perfect explanation of why it's called reframing, because you're basically changing the frame, the view, the landscape of what your mind is seeing. And so it opens up new opportunities. And that leads me perfectly towards communication. And Samuel described, as soon as I put him in that frame of mind, let's say, is he's very visual, and he was able to see lots of different pictures and those pictures gave him lots of interpretations and words. So one of the most powerful things I've ever learned about communication, which is what I'm going to share with you today, and then Samuel can expand on it, is I learned that we all communicate very differently because we all use our senses a little bit differently. Now, we all have that in common, so it's not that we're different from each other, we just differently utilize the senses. 60% of people are visual communicators, which means they see a picture in their mind, they're able to talk to that picture. And like me, I'm a very visual communicator. I see a picture, it tells me 1,000 words, so I speak a lot quicker and I have more words to describe what I'm saying. 20% of people are auditory, and so these are the people that are listeners, they're hearing, and there may be people that require that because they work on a busy telephone all day long talking to clients, etc., etc. And so those people will be in their own right describing their life and their sensory through their predominant sensor, which is auditory, hearing. The other 20% are people that are kinesthetic. Kinesthetic basically means feeling. They're people that are very deep, intuitive, gut feel kind of people. So how is this important, and how can you even detect this in communication? A visual person will be like, can you see where we're going with this? Can you see my point? Does this make, a drawing? Does this paint a picture for you? And when you hear that in their language, you know they're predominantly visual. And so you can talk back to them in visual language. Yes, I see where you're coming from. That would then look like this. And the auditory would be, this sounds like this to me. This rings a bell. And the kinesthetic will be, this feels right. Or I don't know about that. That doesn't feel good to me. My gut feel says that this is the right thing to do. They're the kinesthetic. And so if you understand this in communication, then you can understand first, what's your predominant language? What's your predominant sensor that you're using? Because we all use possibly multiple of these sensors, but you might be more predominantly visual, then more auditory, or more kinesthetic, perhaps. And so the more you know this about yourself, and you know where you are on the spectrum, then you start to listen into your life partner, your wife, or your husband, or your boss, or people at work, business partner.
I think one of the benefits of recognizing your modality of thinking, whether it's visual, auditory, is it reduces that blind reaction to what another person says, and you get angry and stress out, like, no, you're not getting me. Just knowing, well, that's because we're communicating differently. I don't have to get angry now. I go, oh, it's just my way of thinking is different and communicating. So what if I come more to how they're speaking? The anger, the stress can just come down, and you can get to the solution. This is a greater understanding.
100%. And that's, so in normal day-to-day discussions, it may not be to the forefront of importance to know the other person's senses and how they're going to be talking, communicating. But when it's a powerful negotiation or a powerful argument or a heated argument with someone that's important to you, to your family, to your business, then it's important to understand how they communicate so that you can assist or get across the point that you're trying to get, or understand their point they're trying to make much easier. So one of the struggles I've had in previous relationships with different females, and I could talk about this freely because my wife knows my background, and it's a very colourful background, was that I was very visual, whereas females are predominantly more kinesthetic. So if we got into an argument, I'd be talking about, this looks like this to me, this doesn't look like it's going to work out, and this just sounds terrible, what you're proposing, and then they're like, how do you feel? And I had no idea how I felt about it. And so the argument or the conversation would escalate to an even more heated debate because they would think I'm avoiding the question.
You just think, you're not even thinking.
I wasn't thinking about
feeling. Is just not important to me. It's just, the important thing is how it's going to look.
Exactly.
And therefore, people can go,
I was like, what are you talking about?
We want different things. It's like, no, you actually want the same thing. You're just talking about different ways of coming to it.
And so that highlighted to me that you can have very dysfunctional communication very, very quickly, and realize that as things just got heated and more, you know, I suppose.
Just keep digging into the.
Exactly, it just got worse. But in learning what I'm talking about now, I'm able to use effective communication with my wife. And I learned to tap into my own feelings, understand what my feelings are, so that if she talks to me about communication in the kinesthetic sense, I can go, okay, well, how does that feel to me? Yeah, look, that feels good. You know, originally I was thinking we can go on that holiday and do this, and it looked really good, a nice sunny place. But if you feel like you want to go there in winter, well, I'm sure I'm going to feel pretty cold, but I'm happy to experience, you know, something different if that's important to you. And that changes the dynamics. She understands because I'm talking to her in her language with feelings, and then she can reciprocate and say, okay, well, I'm sure you'll have a good time and it will feel great, and you just need to ride up. And so that's just an
I just
example.
want to ask Thomas, you're aware of this modalities of thinking, and
Yeah.
I'm wondering,
Senses.
are you aware of what is the most dominant way of speaking, thinking for you?
Well, it depends on the situation.
Yeah.
Because if something is very important, for me, I try to apply this knowledge, because I'm very good trained in this stuff, but I'm bad in applying it. Because as every human, yeah, we know a lot, but we don't use it that much. But normally I'm a visionary person, very fact and figure oriented, very rational.
I would have definitely picked you as very, so you're visual,
Yeah.
but you're what we call in the modern NLP terms auditory
Yeah.
digital. So what that is basically a combination of your auditory thinking and your visual is chunked up in your thinking.
Yeah.
So you're a thinker, and then you observe the images of that. So auditory digital is an interesting combination, and funny enough, they actually find that most auditory digital sensors and communicators were predominantly very kinesthetic to start with, and something happened to trigger them to go into their rationale because they're afraid of feeling and getting hurt. And then they get pretty much in that arena, and they stay within that arena or that range of digital thinking and visual thinking in their digital mind. So
I think communication with these prime senses is really about listening.
it's important.
That's the key that I think might be missing for you. You say you said you found it difficult to use it, to apply it.
Yeah.
To apply, yeah.
I think the key to applying it is listening for it, and so that's a focus of what am I listening for in this person. So it might be, let's say there's a certain series of everyday talk in a meeting, conversation with someone. We have to also have a second radar that's going, what's their modality, and just listening for a few key words and then just replay them back to them.
Yeah.
So that's one little thing that I like to do when I'm listening. People start listening to what you're saying,
That's
and I'm listening for, do they say see, feel, think, sense? I'm listening for a couple of key words.
It's not only the message in words.
Exactly.
There is much more.
There's
a depth,
much more
But
behind
it's
it.
easier to listen to the message in words
Yeah.
and to react, but it's in many times it's
And
not the best choice.
This is exactly a good example with a wife-husband relationship where he's like, I'm listening, and she's like, no, you're not listening. You might be hearing what I'm saying, but you're not listening to what I'm telling you. And so
There's a kind of there's a real active type,
Active listening.
active activity to listening. You know, they call it active listening. So you might be saying something to me, and I've heard you go, I want you to go and buy, you know, a table, a computer, and chairs, and it has to look this particular way.
yes,
It must feel like this. I'm going, and all I've heard was tables, chairs.
yeah,
And I get the worst colours, I get these hard chairs, and you go, no, 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 no.
I wanted comfort.
So what I could be doing there is go, okay, you said must look like this, feel okay. So tell me more about the look. Tell me more about the feel. Well, and then you give more information, and it reduces communication errors,
Mm.
and then you can apply this to massive things. When there's a big problem in the room with people, is to listen, go, what's really going on here?
Mm.
You know, what are they really trying to tell me? Because most of the time people don't actually say what they mean.
Beautiful.
Not straight to your face. You have to read into it a bit.
Yeah. Especially, I think, and I'm not picking on anyone here, but females are predominantly known for that. They'll speak in a language that is common to them, that they understand, that they're waiting for you to intuitively listen to
I'm going
to the
to
meaning.
disagree with that.
You'll disagree?
I think it doesn't matter.
If it's male or female.
Male, female. I have.
I'm happy to disagree.
Yeah. I just find that, you know, it's like, actually, it's everyone.
Good.
Everyone, no one really on the whole
Ladies,
says what they mean.
If you're out there, he's single. So the good thing is, and he's an eligible bachelor, and he's very understanding. So the key thing, I suppose, is if you're actively listening, whether it's a male or a female that's putting out a message out there, and they're not exactly saying it as it is, perhaps they're dancing around it or they're sugarcoating it, you'll actively listen, as Samuel said, and you'll go, oh, so what you're saying is you want the table and chairs, but you want the comfort in those chairs.
It's an
Okay, great.
intention for things to go well.
Yes.
And it's like,
Checking in.
first of all, I don't want to have later on, no, you didn't understand me, and create more problems.
Yes.
I want more information so I can serve you better.
Yes.
Or so that we can work together and go, so you've said this, is that what you really, did you mean this? And I've been checking with you a little bit here with you, Svet, like, is that what you mean? I've got this question, did you mean this by that? And you go, well, yes. And then you gave me more information.
Yeah.
Cool. So that then allows me to go and check back in with my unconscious, basically drafting new ways to reframe and all these things. And then I ask another question.
Using the active listening and the information that you referenced.
I think if you want to train this skill, and you're driving a car with your wife, for example,
Yes.
and you're approaching a traffic light, and this traffic light switches from orange to green,
Yes.
you can ask the question, this traffic light is green, and then you can wait for the reaction. It's a good opportunity to train this skill, because the reaction can be very, very different.
Of course. Yeah, and it's eliciting to see what her response is going to be. It doesn't look green to me, it's still orange, or I feel like it's probably safer to slow down.
I know it's green.
Yeah.
Or
Or
it goes back to this idea.
digital thinking.
Love it. It's this idea before of, well, it is really about asking good questions when you're having a conversation with someone. Whereas before, to assist you with the solution for how do you stretch the personality of someone, or empower and expand them. And I suggested this idea of asking the question, what is eternal? Or what is the essential essence of this thing after the physical has long gone and the person has died, or the building has been wiped out in 1,000 years? What is still going to be there?
Yes.
And that asking that question is going to bring you information. Same thing here.
100%.
It's like, what is this person really trying to tell me?
100%.
And if you, the traffic light, is this traffic light really green? Just the practice of questioning.
Yeah.
So that I'm no longer actually wanting to get my point across. I'm actually wanting to get more information to make my job easier.
Yeah.
And if you can then, people go, wow, it's really easy to get along with you. You can say, well, what I'm doing half the time is just listening for what you want and then giving it to you, and you go, wow, you're really great to work with and you always give me what I want.
And this is creating the outcomes in those important meetings, in that important discussion, and being present with your partner, your life partner. And so in my active listening, when I was asking you the question, I heard you say, Thomas, that I know this stuff, but I don't actively apply it. And so what I'd like you to think about and really contemplate, and this is something very important that I emphasize very strongly with all the people that I work with, clients, friends, people that I actively try and engage, is to know and not to do is not yet to know. So if I know something, if I know the importance of good communication, yet I'm having a discussion with Samuel and I'm not applying it, do I really know it? Can I really say I know it? And I think the thing that makes a huge difference between your level of comfort with communication, your level of expertise in expressing and communicating your thoughts articulately is to apply what you know. And so I want you to challenge yourself in your way of thinking from now on. If I'm not applying what I know, why? What's my resistance to applying what I know?
No, I think I have an answer to this question.
Great, share it.
It's my profession.
Sure.
And I use this skill and this knowledge as a professional,
Beautiful.
but not for me as a person.
Right. Well, I'd like to encourage you to start to see that you, as a professional, and you in your personal life are the one person. We can't compartmentalize. And if your profession doesn't encourage you to bring out the best of you from what you are in your personal life, then it may not be the profession for you moving forward. Because you want to be doing things that you love to do and do what you love
Give
and
you
love what you do.
energies,
Exactly.
make you more productive
If
without effort.
if you can make your vocation.
What's the thing that makes your heart sing, and then apply that in a commercial sense, is the sweet spot.
Yes.
You're like, I love my job, I'm doing what I love.
Yeah.
You could do it all hours of the day.
And if that's the case, then you can apply what you're applying in your personal life and your professional life, and vice versa. What you apply in your professional life, you bring into your personal life. So how I am here today, right now with you, is how I am in my personal life. I'm actively listening. I'm actively communicating. I'm listening to triggers. I'm happy to share. I'm happy to be quiet and let you share. And that happens in a training environment, and it happens outside of Europe as we're having a coffee. Some people, actually people that know me, think, do you ever switch off? I go, well, I don't need to switch off because this is my way of being. I embody this style. If I know something, I apply it, or else it will lay dormant and it will fade. So I apply it.
I know that, Svetlana, because you teach people to speak Russian, that you might have an interesting perspective on communication and how you get across to them the meaning of a phrase. That's, you can put together grammatical structures and things, but essentially learning a language comes down to point and name, doesn't it? You go pen, to like in the basics, right? That's like we all learn from being a baby. Mum and dad go chair, table, but there must be more complicated things when trying to teach adults a language. How do you get across the meaning when the person is like, I just don't get it? What's something that you always draw back onto? Something that solves, or at least gets them to the point where they go, I get it. Is it different for every person, or is there a couple of tricks or tools that you use to get across your meaning? Just with translation with vocabulary.
Here's more easy for me because I can use, I'm more relaxed here and I can use English language to explain the meaning of the Russian word. But in Russia we have completely different system when I work and I teach people English. And even if they don't know how to say hello and thank you to you, and they are completely beginners, they don't know even English alphabet, I'm not allowed to speak Russian with them. So in this case I have lots of challenges how to explain even, international words like football, camera. They can understand it, but it was maximum. Yeah, to say that hello, how are you, that means hello, how are you? Like you can introduce each other and you can say these words when you meet person. And I struggle so much to explain very simple words to my student. So what I do, I use my mimic, my gesture. I was playing with them. I was jumping all over the place in the classroom.
Body language.
Yeah, my body language. Yeah, this is the way how I should explain it. Hello, how are you? Like I'm jumping. I'm trying to do some examples, and they're like, looking at me like a clown in the room, but I really enjoy it. The only last point when I completely can't explain something, I start to draw. This is my big point, but everybody.
So a picture.
Yeah.
Not words.
No, not words.
Because
words,
they might not know the alphabet, and so they see the picture and they can relate to that.
But we say a painting has 1,000 words.
Yeah.
And gets across more information.
Yeah.
So look, it's a good question, and you're asking a teacher of different languages how she expresses it to people that don't even know that language, and how do they get familiar with learning the new language.
Let alone modalities of thinking.
Yeah.
Just obvious, vocabulary swapping.
Yeah. So
Can still have its difficulties.
let me put this out there as someone that's learned 3 different languages by the age of 10.
Yeah.
If you have studied or you know a new language, a different language, it shapes you, it characterizes you, it gives you a different edge to say someone who only speaks that one language. If you challenge yourself to learn to articulate and to speak and express yourself and actively listen for other people's language patterns in how they say, I see this, or I hear that, or I feel this, it's almost like learning a new language. Even though you both speak English, as you listen in for this actively, it's almost like you've learned a new language because you're practicing and using different sensory. And it characterizes and it shapes you and it makes you a different person again.
I'm wondering if you've noticed that it's a bit difficult to remind yourself to do this. I think you said before, Thomas, that you find it a bit of a challenge to apply this particular, even though you know NLP, it's like just the reminder to think about the person's modality is the first block. So how do we remind ourselves? And I guess it comes down to that practicing of is this light green?
Yeah, practice is great.
There are other things you can do with this,
Sure.
You don't just have to listen for keywords to do with modalities of thinking, and those 4 main ones, but listen for things that are what I like to call as the chunk level, or what they do call in NLP is chunk level. So you have detail, sort of a mid-range, and big picture thinking. And that's one that I really like to use a lot. That's like my favorite. And so let's say I'm in a situation as a person, there's resistance, like I want this and they want that, and we're not getting along. I'll then go, what level are they talking about here? And I'll just match them. Like if they're starting to talk about, we go back to the desks and the table idea, and they say, I really want the table to fit in with the whole house. I immediately know that they're up here because they're talking about a bigger thing. But if they start saying, look, I need the stitches to be of this color and I want them done then I'm going to, everything that I start to talk about is going to be more detailed. And all of a sudden they're like, oh, you get me. And that's just one of the bits about, let's say, communication model that I'd love to develop.
That's really
because it's fun, because you go, oh, I know where they are.
Yeah, it's really good that you're talking about that as well, because that's almost like building rapport. Because which is our next topic, funny enough, as you go into the detail that they're going into, or going into the big picture as they're going into, you're building rapport, and that's what makes it easier for you to communicate. But to answer your rhetorical question from before as to how do you apply is you practice. And practice and practice and practice. It's like when you first started learning to drive. You had to think about turning the indicator as you were going to indicate and turn. You had to think about putting the car in gear. You had to think about adjusting the mirrors and your position in the seat and putting on the seatbelt and looking out for traffic as you're driving. And there were so many different steps. And at the beginning you were thinking, how am I going to do all this? This just seems so difficult.
I think we should use painful possible future events as a great motivator as to why we should learn to do this.
Absolutely.
Just like you learn to drive a car so that you don't crash.
Perfect.
You have to realize that if you don't learn this stuff, you're going to crash.
Or you're going to have minor incidents.
Yeah.
So the idea is, once you've learned to drive and you've been doing it for a long time, you start to drive unconsciously without even thinking about it. You get into the seat, you already know to put on your seatbelt, adjust your view, and you start to drive, and everything becomes easy, natural process of flow.
And what I find once you've mastered these sort of introductory things, you can get more creative. You can have more fun, and I've started to create my own models on top of these models. Just using the same things, and they actually stack. Like I now have, what I call the Hall of Genius, which is at a place in my imagination which I go to and I use assumptive, presupposition language and imagine that there's like Albert Einstein, Rudolf Steiner, Max Planck, you know, great physicists, philosophers, and ask them questions. So I'm using my imagination to a new level, and I'm listening for their modality of thinking and playing it back.
Right.
So I'm just having more fun with it. That's the sort of the next step that we'll
Perfect.
sort of offer, you know, in longer sort of intensive that we want to do.
Yeah.
But we should, I think, have a bit of a break, maybe a
Okay.
leg stretch.
Let's take a break, and when we come back, we'll continue with rapport.